Hello, I'm Dr. David Rosensweet, and you've tuned into the second hour every Thursday of I Wonder Doctor Live. This is the 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time in the United States, and it's a time I love to address tools to respond differently to the stresses in our life. Respond differently to the stresses. We're not going to eliminate stress. It's quite a story. It's quite beneficial and important for the human race. It's how we respond to those stresses that really affect our health, our lives. So this is what I like to address. And you know, one of my favorite things to do is to address any questions you may have about your emotions, your mind, your life. And what we talk about during this hour is the highest priority is given to anyone who calls in. And the number to call in is 888-502-8886. That's 888-502-8886. And today I'd like to address the bottom line. Have you ever woken up in the morning and you, instead of leaping right into your day, leaping out of bed and launching headlong into your day, you wake up and you ask yourself, or you discover, you think, ooh, I don't feel so good this morning, mood-wise. I don't feel happy, I feel troubled. And of course, this could also occur at any time during the day. You could go into a day when you're feeling really happy and excited, and you go off to work, and then at one point you notice, what the heck? I was happy today, and now I'm not. I feel troubled. What I want to narrow our focus down to is, what do you do in those circumstances? Well, for one thing, just the awareness that you're not feeling okay emotionally is the great leap forward, because something has taken place where you have become conscious in your mind and in your feeling about what's going on inside of you emotionally. So if you find yourself in that situation where you're asking that question, like, what's going on here? I don't feel so good, and you notice that you don't feel so good, you are way ahead of things. Oh my goodness, it's the great first step. You're becoming aware of what's going on in your own self. I know it's hard to believe that that's the most important thing, but without that step, you can't take step number 2. So, what's step number 2? Well, you want to have tools, because ideally, you're not going to proceed into your day and just being stuck behind and feeling hopeless about an uncomfortable mood that you're in. So here's a couple tools. One of them is you have a conversation with yourself. And you ask yourself, I'm troubled. I appreciate that. I accept that. What am I troubled about? And you start describing to your very own self, yes, I'm uncomfortable about that I've missed this and that at my workouts this week, and I'm a little tired, or, you know, what's going on in relationship with this person, it's day after day, it's year after year, I'm finally starting to get aware of it. I don't know what the solution is, but I'm not comfortable with it, and when I go into work today, I'm going to be facing this person one more time. Or I'm uncomfortable about our cash situation. I've got a family to support, or I'm just supporting myself, whatever it is, and you know what? There's not enough. And I feel troubled by that. Sometimes you're going to have what I would call the first layer. You're going to, in conversation with your very own self, you're going to discover more about what's bothering you beneath the surface, rather than it being vague anxiety or vague discomfort or vague fear. You're going to, in conversation with yourself, just like you'd be in conversation with a therapist or with a friend. Well, how convenient is it for you to be that therapist or that friend? Now, who can ever displace a loving friend or a therapist. No, that's not the purpose there. But, lying there at bed at 6 in the morning, you may not have easy access to a therapist or a friend. So you become that therapist or friend, because here's one thing I find: the truth will set me free. If I start telling myself the truth about what I'm uncomfortable about, I get immediate and certain level of relief. So talk to yourself. Even just getting it out loud is going to help you. And it's going to increase your awareness about this, and it's going to make you more vigilant. Let's say it's a certain boss at work that's just bugging you every day. Well, you've brought the topic up with yourself, and now you go on, you do a scientific exploration of, I'm going to pay attention when I'm with this boss. I'm not going to try and resolve it with the boss. I'm not going to say, boss, let's you and I have a heart-to-heart because I'm troubled by you. No, that's not what I'm leaning towards. You become the one who tries to wake up right there in the middle of any conversation you have with your boss, and you'll be surprised. You're going to learn more about what's troubling you if you're just paying attention right in the line of fire. I'm just giving you one example. There are so many examples. If you're paying attention, if you've identified a trouble point, and then you start paying attention, you're going to get the next level of information about it. And it could lead you to solutions, or it could lead you to some deep internal pain that seems like it relates to someone else or the world, but you find out, and this is, I'm moving into a second way to deal with what's going on. Sometimes you go into work and the boss implies in some way, and I'm just giving you I'm making up an example here, and the boss implies that you don't do very good work. That's really what's underneath the words of the communication to you, or the energy of the communication. I always love to pay attention to someone's energy. I always love to look at their face when they're communicating to me and get a sense of what kind of tone do they have. Because if you do that, you're going to pick up on the emotional pressure of any communication, and that's usually what troubles us. And if the boss says to you something like, you're late, you leave early every single day. You're leaving at 4:30 every single day, and it's really bothering me, and that's what I've been grumpy about every day. And it turns out that you go in your mind, that's funny, I clock out, and it's written on my time card that I clock out late every day, 5:15, 5:30, because I just want to get my work done. I love doing good work. And you could say to your boss without much juice, hey, let's walk over the time clock. I'm so glad that you revealed what you were really troubled about. And you show the boss the truth. Paying attention and asking, boss, you seem a little concerned about me. And then the boss reveals, because you're leaving work every day at 4:30, and I know it. And then you know that's not the truth, and you solve something there. Or maybe the boss is very vague about their communication to you, and you just don't, you're not and you notice as the boss is talking from the energy of the communication that you feel awful inside. And the clearer you get about inspecting your own feelings, you'll go, my first reaction is I'm angry. I'm angry at the boss. They just don't understand. And then you go, well, wait a minute. Well, why am I reacting so quickly internally? What am I actually feeling? And you get to see that even from the tone of the boss's communication, you're starting to feel super uncomfortable. Maybe it gets you down to a pattern, a life pattern, where you believe that no one really loves you and no one really understands you, and there's something wrong with you. And you get to see that the pain that is getting triggered in that communication to the boss, the elephant in the room is the amount of pain that's getting communicated by your boss, how they talk to you. And lo and behold, when you have tools to work on that pain, once you succeed with those tools, you notice you go in and the boss is talking to you entirely different. It's almost like you resolved a communication problem with your boss just by doing your own work. Now I'm giving you an extreme example, but a common example. If you are willing to accept the life that you're in and how it's unfolding to you, and you are willing to follow and track the pain places, the internal pain places, you're going to learn so much about yourself, and that's going to take you to step number 3. I think one of the most challenging ways to grow is to begin from a position that's what's happening to me in my days, what's unfolding in front of me, the communications, the people, the choices. This is my life. I'm going to start with totally accepting it for exactly what it is. You've heard this from me before. Well, nice theory. What it comes down to is the ability to accept any emotional discomfort associated with exactly what is. That means you need to accept, to be free, any emotional discomfort in yourself. That's the bottom line. If you can identify the fear that could be coursing through your body, the anger, the sadness, the shame, there's something wrong with me, the guilt, what I do is wrong, the emptiness, the loneliness, the meaninglessness that's coursing through your body. In other words, you get observant of what's going on in you, and you get to notice when there's a really powerful, uncomfortable response going on inside of you, a powerful, uncomfortable emotion, and you let it be. The Beatles, let it be, let it be, let it be. What it is. Because if you're not conscious of it, the energy of those things sort of drive us nuts. They drive people to try and medicate or ameliorate this vague discomfort, this anxiety and depression that they feel. They'll take prescription drugs, they'll take street drugs, they'll get addicted to relationships or work or something, all in an attempt to mollify those uncomfortable feelings. Well, what if you do what those uncomfortable feelings really want? They want to be felt. They want to be owned as one's own uncomfortable feelings. You may have heard the term personal responsibility bantered about. Bantered about, oh my God. The fate of the human race and the whole planet is revolving around the ability for enough human beings to convert to being personally responsible for their own pain and not projecting it out onto others is the cause of my pain. It's our pain. It's in our body. And the most amazing thing is if you are able to identify when you're in pain, never mind the splinter in someone else's eye, the telephone pole in our own, you identify your own pain, and by that I mean you recognize it with your mind, but here's where the heavy lifting is. You feel it. You feel the emotions, because they're the bottom line. That's the most troubling thing that there is internally, is uncomfortable emotions. And here's the magic. If you recognize it and you feel it, and you accept it, you'll be healing it. What does acceptance mean? It means you allow it to be the exact energy that it is. That means if it's fear, you breathe and you let it be the fear that it actually is. If it's shame, there's something wrong with me, you let yourself feel and breathe and you let it be the exact energy that it is. The medicine that you're applying there, the wisdom that you're applying, is something called unconditional love. You're allowing, you're accepting what's going on in your very own self for exactly what it is. I'm not saying heal it. I'm not saying get rid of it. I'm not saying override it. If it feels negative, you're going to use the power of positive thinking. Not that there isn't a place for that. There is. You're letting it be exactly what's going on inside of you, and you're just breathing and feeling, and anyone who has done this ever will notice that in minutes or 20 minutes max, they start to feel better. You're learning unconditional love. You're learning unconditional love of self. You're accepting yourself. Want to know what self-love is? Self-acceptance? It's building these muscles of identifying what's actually going on inside of yourself and in a safe way giving it what it wants, which is loving acceptance. So the bottom line muscle you're developing is, can I let fear, for example, just be fear? And I'm breathing and feeling fear. If you were to do that to a child who was afraid, if you say, come here, honey, I can tell you're really afraid. Just sit in my lap, I'm going to hold you. You be afraid. We all have fear. Yours is up. I'm just going to go quiet. I'm just going to help you feel your fear. Magic occurs. If that child has a reasonably decent life, I'm not talking about extenuating circumstances, like war, for example, you're going to watch that child melt in about 5 to 10 minutes, and they're going to feel better because you unconditionally love them. You accepted them for what was actually going on in their being. Well, this is the muscle of when you feel uncomfortable, what works? This is one of the biggest ones of all. And the muscle you're developing is that when you're uncomfortable in your own self, you just breathe and feel. Nothing to do, nowhere to run, no drug to take. Just think, you're dealing with the bottom line there. Now here's another aspect of this. When we feel uncomfortable, it turns out to be a surface ruffle. Like picture a hurricane passing over an ocean. The surface of that ocean is going to be tumultuous with tremendously high waves, but not too deep beneath the surface. It's going to be quiet and peaceful for miles and miles. In fact, most of what the ocean is peace and quiet. And not to use a metaphor any longer, this is the great mystery. This is when you hear of people wanting to meditate in a cave for years or spend hours and hours of meditating. What they're trying to do, with all due respect to, I may not be naming what everyone is trying to do there. They're trying to feel what's really beneath the surface. Well, what does that imply? That there is something beneath our surface stresses, our uncomfortable thoughts and our uncomfortable emotions. The uncomfortable thoughts and the uncomfortable emotions are artificial in most cases. They're made up. Mark Twain said, I've had a lot of troubles in my life, and some of them were actually true. In other words, he made up a lot with his mind. And he knew that. Because really, beneath the surface, who in the heck are we? How about answering that question? Well, here's a viewpoint, not my own. I didn't invent this viewpoint, that we're living energy of love. We're a spark of the divine, implying there is a divine. But I can tell you this for sure. Beneath the surface, there is peace and joy. And that's why people meditate. They do it, in the best case scenario I do it. In the best case scenario is I want to put my attention on what is actually going on. And when I do that, I'm going to gain access to what's going on the deeper levels in 9 times out of 10. Especially at this phase with the work I've done with my own emotions and own mind over the course of my life, I hit the stillness. That means I'm sitting and I'm feeling the peace and the stillness. And it's such a relief. So some mornings when I wake up uncomfortable dream, or I start reviewing the uncomfortable things in my life, I'll go sit on my cushions and I'll turn my focus internally. And now I've done a lot of work to get here, but more commonly what will happen is I'll start just focusing on my breath. My attention is turning away from the thoughts of my mind, from the worries, from the uncomfortable emotions. I'll be paying attention to my breath. I'll be feeling my body. Getting more immediate. I'm getting more in the now. And so often these days, I encountered the stillness, the peace. I love it. And I had a just wonderful reminder of this the last 4 days. Kim's son and daughter-in-law and 11-month-old, soon-to-be 1-year grandson came to spend days with us. Well, these young children, they're right from the divine. They have so much, especially if they've had decent circumstances, of the light, of the bright, of the aliveness, of the vitality, of the beauty, of the innocence. And what I liked doing most with Caleb was just getting down to his level while he was playing and being present with him. And what I noticed is every so often he would look over and look me right in the eyes, and we'd be quiet together because he was quiet inside. I was so moved by this. I was so nurtured by this, which can bring me to another tool, is if we can slow down and pay attention to our families, to our friends, there's unlimited wealth available in who they are and how we're connected and the connection to the divine. So if you wake up uncomfortable one morning or in the middle of the day, these are the tools worth developing, and there's more. And there's resources. At an earlier time today I mentioned Rick Hansen. I'd like to mention Tara Brach. I'd like to mention Eckhart Tolle, just to name 3 of hundreds and hundreds of resources that are available on the internet. You can just tune right in and learn from these grand masters. Oh yes, John Kabat-Zinn, Kabot-Zinn, one of my favorites. You learn directly from the masters. We have such wonderful teachings available to us. And what are they teaching us? Skills that we can acquire so that when we're feeling uncomfortable, we have something to do that works. And then day-to-day life gets better and easier. We solve these problems because we're solving them from the inside. We develop better and better lives. And even in the face of the surface ruffles and even the hurricanes, we can do better and better and better. And that's so rewarding to do well at life. And it opens the gateway to appreciate the supreme beauty that is available to us in life itself. I'm Dr. David Rosensweet. It's such an honor and privilege to be with you.